Hello, and welcome to Of the People. Why are Jews so liberal? It's a question I have been asked repeatedly by a lot of my non-Jewish and conservative friends. And the short answer is Jews have historically been deeply involved in fighting for equality and civil rights and the protection of marginalized community. Because for Jews, fighting for the underdog and the oppressed has been a cornerstone of our Jewish values for centuries. There's a concept called tikkun olam, which is heal the world. The idea of repairing the world has been at the core of Jewish life and our Jewish values, guiding our involvement in the world. But today, it is crystal clear that those very same movements that we supported, those social justice movements that the Jewish community has historically supported, are increasingly hostile towards Jews and are openly anti-Semitic and anti-Israel. And the majority of Jews now find themselves caught between their commitment to these liberal ideals and the reality that these movements are dangerous to their very safety and survival. And it's a contradiction that echoes a dark chapter in our history, in the world's history, the rise of Nazi Germany. Because in the 30s, the Jews in Germany were also deeply involved in progressive and liberal movement and didn't fully recognize the growing threat of Hitler and the Nazis until it was too late. Now, looking back, we now know the dangers were clear, but at the time, many Jews failed to see that the very movements that they had aligned with could and would soon turn against them. And let's be clear, Nazism didn't arrive overnight. It crept in piece by piece until it was too late. And when you fast forward that to today, we see the same pattern. Jews, particularly in liberal circles, have long aligned themselves with movements to promote equality and social justice. And honestly, many continue to do so despite the fact that the movements have now clearly shown themselves to be anti-Semitic. The BDS movement, Black Lives Matter, and so many others are now openly anti-Zionist and anti-Israel, to the point where it's become almost mainstream within the progressive circles. And yet many Jews still support these movements despite the fact that their open hostility towards Israel and Jewish identity is absolutely undeniable. Just like in the 1930s Nazi Germany, Jews are once again faced with an undeniable contradiction and a choice. The participation in these causes is increasingly self-destructive, especially as they become targets of the very movement that they help to build. So the question is, not only why are Jews so liberal, but why do they continue to support these movements despite the very real threats to our community? And here's where there's that painful parallel to Nazi Germany. It becomes all too clear, because just as many Jews in the 1930s refused to acknowledge what was in front of them and the growing danger of the Nazi regime, so too many Jews today refuse to face the fact that the progressive movement that they support have openly turned against them. And the failure in the 1930s to confront the rise of Nazism led to the Holocaust and 6 million Jews being killed. And today, America and the world's Jewish community are at risk of repeating the same mistake and refusing to acknowledge the threat that's right in front of them until it's too late. And then there's a figure like Donald Trump, whose policies, particularly on Israel, but on so many other issues, align with the Jewish interest and community in so many ways, whether it's human rights, the right of self-defense, the rule of law, legal immigration, and clearly one of the most pro-Israel presidents of any US president ever, all align with Jewish values. Yet Jews are still overwhelmingly anti-Trump, not because of his policies, but because they have somehow been brainwashed by the media and the vanguard of the progressive left that he's a racist and he's a Nazi, when his policies, his positions, and his appointments clearly show he is not. The contradiction is stark. Jews continue to support progressive causes despite the fact that these causes are now clearly and openly hostile to their very existence. They ignore the very real and growing threat. So the question is, will Jews continue to ignore the dangers as Jews did in the years leading up to Nazism? And will history repeat itself in ways that no one wants to consider? We must ask the question, will Jews confront the reality of the danger we face today, or will the vast majority continue to support the movement that in the end may likely lead to another Holocaust? Because, ladies and gentlemen, never again is now. And that's the monologue.